What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dirty Bird Fly Through. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share out, and back here for another preview. This time on a short week, the Falcons, with 4 games left to go in this season, it is vastly approaching this end. I know to the relief of pretty much all of us with how rough this season has been, but the Falcons are back in primetime this week for the first time since week 7. This is their fourth primetime game of the season. Obviously, the last time the Falcons were in primetime, I think the team was in completely different circumstances. There was certainly a lot more enthusiasm about us playing in primetime, but regardless, the Falcons are playing on Thursday Night Football against their divisional rival, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it is a full blown throwback Thursday. The Falcons will be repping their red helmets, the old school Dirty Bird logo. The Bucs are going to be breaking out their creamsicle jerseys. The field, everything, the whole vibes. It's going to be complete throwback. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Looking at the injury report for both teams. And I think it's important to note that you can make whatever you want of this, but the Falcons, it is being said, really haven't had a major practice this week. Monday, they really didn't practice. Tuesday was a walkthrough. So I think that kind of goes to show you the sense of urgency the Falcons have at this point in the season. Granted, it's a short week, but still, Drake London, still the biggest name on here. He has, not been involved either Monday or Tuesday. So honestly, I would say the likelihood of Drake London playing Thursday is slim to none. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked with how the way this season has gone if we don't see Drake London play again in 2025. Drake London, obviously, when he went out, it certainly looked like he was on pace to get his second 1,000-yard season of his career. If he doesn't play again, he will end with just over 800 yards. But you would rather be safe than sorry, especially in the meaningless games that the Falcons have remaining. Brandon Dorlus is someone else who has been on the injury report. He has been limited, so the chance of him playing is pretty solid. AJ Terrell also popping up on the injury report, limited. Jalen Walker, limited. Kyle Pitts with a knee injury, he is limited. Caden Ellis with an elbow injury has practiced in full. So that's really the entire, gist of it. Chris Lindstrom also with the foot injury he's kind of been dealing with and playing through has also been limited. So I think a lot of those guys you can expect to play. Brandon Dorlus, I'm not totally sure about. Drake London is the one that honestly I'm not expecting. Now, for the Buccaneers, the big injury that they suffered back in week 7 was Mike Evans. He went out and it was assumed that he would probably be out most of, if not the rest of the season. Well, he has had quite the recovery, and he has a very real chance to return as soon as Thursday night. And he has been limited all week with a collarbone injury, or dating back to that broken clavicle that he suffered in week 7. It's listed on there as a collarbone. So, look, Tampa will love nothing more to get Mike Evans back to make their playoff push. Chris Godwin with a fibula injury has also been limited. Bucky Irving popping up, but he has practiced in full. Baker Mayfield, obviously, he suffered a left shoulder injury. He's fully practicing. So, listen, Tampa Bay, Cade Otton not practicing Monday or Tuesday. Hassan Reddick did not practice Monday. Limited practice on Tuesday. So, both teams definitely dealing with their fair share of injuries this late in the year. But it's going to be interesting to see how both teams approach it. Now, as I said, it is a short week. It is a throwback Thursday. And I definitely think, that changes your preparation mindset regardless. But especially for where the Falcons are at this point in the year, where we're essentially waiting for the season to end and get some very obvious news. I think a lot of people know what that is. It's still going to be interesting to see how the Falcons come out on Thursday for a lot of reasons, but especially, if it reflects actually their preparation or really the lack thereof that you get, period, on a short week. We know that the Falcons don't really put too much of an emphasis, as other teams do during the week, on preparation for these games. They do run a lot of walkthroughs on Wednesdays and things like that. You could definitely say that maybe it has contributed to the um, the plentiness of injuries, the abundance of injuries that the Falcons have been dealing with this season. But on a short week, it also really just comes down to that veteran leadership. Last year, when the Falcons played the Buccaneers on a short week, it really, I think, put the team, and this was highlighted in the quarterback series on Netflix that released this past July. It was highlighted specifically how Kirk Cousins prepared for that game. And he really just, was locked in those few days watching tape, dissecting the Buccaneers defense. We know in that game, Kirk Cousins had his legendary 500-yard game, which is really one of the last times that I think Falcons fans can say they actually felt hope with the team. But you definitely, I think, do take that into account with how are the Falcons going to prepare for this game? How will the Bucs prepare? But it's a short week, so obviously the preparation is different. How you see the teams come out might be different. But regardless, it's a divisional game. These teams know each other very well. Now, as far as Tampa goes, and speaking of divisional games, they had a very bad loss to the Saints on Sunday that they are looking to bounce back from. And I don't think you could have a more dire must-win opportunity for Tampa, considering that the Carolina Panthers are now breathing down their necks in the NFC South. Carolina faces New Orleans this weekend. If they are to beat the Saints and Tampa slips up and loses to this Falcons team, Carolina has an opportunity next week to clinch the NFC South with a win. Tampa's backs are against the wall, and we know that when the Buccaneers' backs are against the wall, that is when we get the most dangerous Buccaneers team. That is when Baker Mayfield is the most locked in, and they're going to need it this week because this is a Falcons team that, you could say all you want. It's a divisional game. I think Raheem Morris understands that, regardless of what we think, this is a game that, you got to show up for. It is in prime time. The Falcons do tend to, for some reason, play better in prime time, which, hey, maybe makes sense to an extent. Why can't you do it in every game? I also think is the bigger question. But the Bucs are in a very critical spot. They have to have a bounce back. Baker Mayfield has to get back into a rhythm. You're looking for him to really put the Buccaneers on his back like he's been able to the past 2 years for a late season push into the playoffs. And they need that once again because they have lost their ground in the NFC South. They have no leeway in this game to let the Falcons go into Raymond James Stadium and pull off an upset. And I think this is a very interesting note, by the way. With the exception of the Tom Brady years in Tampa, the Falcons have not lost in Tampa since 2015, if you take away the 3 years that they had Tom Brady. So I definitely think that is something that is of note still. This is a stadium that the Falcons have had success in, so it's going to be interesting to see, could they, even in a season like this, continue that success? And if that is going to happen, you're going to need one more clinic out of Kirk Cousins. We know last year what happened on Thursday Night Football. It's probably the reason why this game is on Thursday night this year, because Kirk Cousins last year on Thursday Night Football in the Benz, 509 yards, the all-time single game passing record for the Falcons broken the night Matt Ryan was put into the Ring of Honor, 4 touchdowns. A thrilling 36-30 win in overtime that looked to be the official statement from the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, we know that Tampa still did win the division last year, and the Falcons missed out on the playoffs, had another losing season. But still, it goes to show you that this Falcons team, they're capable of doing it to this Buccaneers team. And this Tampa team still does have struggles in a lot of similar areas, especially their passing defense. I mean, Tyler Shaw on Sunday was able to have a pretty solid performance, especially for a rookie. He was able to put the Saints on his back and lead them to a win. Tampa was never really able to put that Saints team away. They let them stick around until the end when New Orleans was able to pick up a victory. So you're going to need that clinic out of Kirk Cousins. You're going to need him to throw this ball around the field. It hurt, it's probably going to hurt that Drake London is not playing, but this could be a game for Darnell Mooney to have one more statement. Kyle Pitts has been getting the ball the past couple weeks. This could be another big spot for him. Obviously, Bijan Robinson out of the backfield. And then some other guys, too. Some of these receivers that you see, like David Sills and a Devin Tompkins, this could be big opportunities for them, especially with Kirk Cousins proven that if there's one team that he can throw the ball around against, it is the Buccaneers. Now, as I talked about, Baker Mayfield, he has had a down week the past several weeks, and he is definitely looking to rebound. He really does need that rebound spot, that game that can give them confidence going into these two critical games they have against the Panthers, 2 out of the last 3 weeks of the season. And the Falcons are a big opportunity. Listen, they are at home. They're wearing those creamsicles. Just like with the Falcons or the Red Helmets, that is a very special uniform for the Buccaneers. It is a vintage uniform. You know they want to protect home turf, especially this late in the year. And Baker Mayfield, this is a spot for him. This is a spot where Tampa is looking for him to come out and really put that team on his back. Toughen it out essentially. Get the ball to his receivers, and especially on the chance Mike Evans could potentially be back. That's something else you have to look out for, because Mike Evans, as we know throughout his career, has had success against the Falcons, of course. So if Mike Evans is back, that will definitely be a big plus for the Buccaneers offense. But they are looking for Baker Mayfield to put them on their back. This is a must win. This is a game Tampa knows they need, and they're going to come into it, and I'm expecting they are going to play like they need this game. Now, as far as the Falcons, I think everything considered, you want to ask yourself, what team is going to show up to play? Is it going to be the team that, we saw a couple weeks ago against the Saints go out and fight and get a win against a divisional opponent? Or is it going to be the team we saw last week versus the Jets, which is essentially lay down in the second half? And, last week, the indications were all that Raheem Morris has basically lost the locker room. They don't want to play for him. They're not inspired to play for him. And if the Falcons come out and suffer a very ugly loss, similar to how they lost Sunday to Seattle, it might leave ownership with really not much of a choice to make a move, even with 3 games left in the season. So, this is going to be a very big verdict for the entire world to see if Raheem Morris still has the trust of his players, still has just the tiniest ounce of belief from his players. This is going to be a very big telltale sign for that. Now, getting into the players to watch for both teams. For the Falcons, I'm going with Devin Tompkins. And Devin Tompkins, ever since joining the Falcons, he's been, on the Falcons practice squad for a little bit of time, but ever since being elevated a couple weeks ago against the Jets, he really hasn't gotten the opportunities I feel like he deserves. He can be that big spark that the Falcons need, especially with the speed that he can provide. And talking about Kirk Cousins, his history against the Buccaneers, being able to light them up. Tampa Bay, we know, is going to try to blitz. Kirk is going to have to get that ball out quickly. If Devin Tompkins can fly by a corner, then he could be in line for some very big plays in this game, especially with Kirk Cousins looking his way. There were some times on Sunday against the Seahawks where they probably should have looked Devin Tompkins' way, and they probably should have tried to lean on him a little bit more. So that's definitely a guy that I think should get those opportunities. And for the Buccaneers, it's not, really a shocker per se, but they're going to try to rely on Bucky Irvin. Even in the chance that Mike Evans is back, this is that time of year you want to rely on your running game. And Bucky Irving, since coming back, you're seeing him get back into a groove, and you really need to see for Tampa Bucky Irving come out and have that big game, that really reflects progress from his rookie season from last year, where obviously he had a very stellar campaign. So, They are looking for Bucky Irvin to come out. The Falcons, their run defense is lackluster to say the least. We struggle against running backs, period. So this could be an opportunity for Tampa to really come out and really pound the rock against the Falcons. Maybe not even put all that pressure on Baker Mayfield to open Tampa up for those big plays later in the game. But Bucky Irving, I would definitely say, is a guy to look out for. Now, getting into the keys to victory, going over to the chalkboard for a moment. First key to victory, I kind of mentioned it when I was talking about Kirk Cousins. You have to spread the ball around. This is a Kirk Cousins spot game. This is a game that I think Kirk Cousins can come out and can show off and give you an opportunity to win. And I mean, it's frustrating for some to even talk about winning at this point because of how the season has gone, but that's just the reality of it. If there's probably any game remaining on the schedule that could be a Kirk Cousins spot to come out and, win the game with his arm, it could be against this Buccaneers team. And I definitely think that you are going to see that. This is this type of game, especially with a short week, where you lean on your quarterback. And this could definitely be a big Kirk Cousins spot. Second key to victory is you have to get to Baker. You got to affect Baker. He is still dealing with that injury. You can tell that Baker has not been the same. He is looking to have a big game. He's going to probably try to be aggressive at point. You want to take advantage of that. You saw them do it in the first half against Sam Darnold and the Seahawks before things fell apart. You want to see the Falcons get to Baker Mayfield and really affect him, but you got to keep it up and you got to be consistent all game long. And third and foremost, you have to stay ahead of the chains. You cannot get backed up into these long situations in this type of game. This is a game where you have to keep forward progress. That's why I say it's going to be very important for Kirk Cousins to really take advantage of Tampa Bay's aggressiveness. You want to see a lot of quick releases. Bijan Robinson has not had the most success against the Buccaneers in his career. So, we know that they have a ferocious front. They're going to try to be aggressive, so you want to see a lot of quick things, maybe some things over the middle. Just try to find those zones that they are going to allow. And at the end of the day, you take advantage that way. You keep the chains ahead of you. But as far as what I think is going to happen in this game, listen, it is very hard to have any confidence in this team at this point. And I think the Buccaneers need this game. I think the Buccaneers are going to win this game. I don't know if it's going to be as bad as it was against the Seahawks. You might see the Falcons do like against the Seahawks, keep it close for a half. Maybe the floodgates don't burst exactly in the manner that they did versus Seattle, but I still think you're going to see Tampa Bay pull away with this game. And, really, I think depending on how the Falcons lose, though, I'm picking the Bucs to win 31-17. But if the Falcons come out and lose this game very, very badly, it might leave Arthur Blank without a choice but to make a move after this game. I know with only three games left, it's a very tough position to put any potential interim in. Would anyone on the coaching staff even want to coach this team for 3 games with the situation? I think that's a question also. But this is a very important game, I think, to really just get a pulse check on the Falcons. Can you even get up for a divisional game in prime time when you're wearing the freaking red helmets? If you can't do that, that goes to show you everything you need to know about the team at this point. But with that being said, I appreciate everyone for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share out. I will see you all in the next video.